we zoom. You have lunar design everywhere in an hyper-consumer society. So what's particularly interesting here is how these aesthetics have been inspired by how our predecessors imagined the future years ago, and how these imagined artifacts are here brought to life, ready for our delight. And once again, coming back to Black Mirror, because I think that they really do one of the best use of future artifacts. In more traditional sci-fi shows, the viewer is introduced to a new technology in many details. Through the character of a newbie, for example, you can think back of Minority Report as the precogs are introduced. Well, in Black Mirror, the logic is a bit different. You first get like visual cues or symbols or metaphors that really require you to engage actively with what is going on. I just name one episode because I could do that for each of them, but in Beyond the Sea with Aaron Paul and Josh Hartnett, the artifact is the link between an astronaut in space and their machine replica done on Earth. And it's not introduced in an over-explicative educational manner. It is just placed in the environment for us to be frontally faced with it, to slowly understand the implications and the consequences. So you start to gather cues that something is special as you witness one of the astronauts being weirdly patted by a stranger in a movie theater, or as the parents of the child are questioning the effect of the new setting on him. And what I find particularly interesting with this approach to artifacts, kind of new approach to artifacts, is that it's very similar to how Institute for the Future uses artifacts, that it works with artifacts from the future. It's about placing them in an everyday environment for people to get a strong reaction to those artifacts. And if you think about it, many of Black Mirror episodes focus on one innovation at a time. It is not always a completely new world, but it's more like a world that could be similar to ours, or in the case of that episode I was mentioning in the life in 1969, with a man who cuts hoods with an axe in his backyard, but has this special seat that connects him to his space self in one of the bedrooms. And that leads us to my last point, and I will accelerate a bit because I see we're running out of time here, authenticity. So when sci-fi starts to be a really good tool for futures thinking, I think, is when the goal is not just to display huge amounts of technology, but more to have an authentic story set in a future setting. I would even say that too much science fiction, an overload of advanced technology, can be counterproductive and even off-putting, as the viewer or the reader doesn't find a common ground to really connect and empathize.